Swinging a high drive into center field. It's at the wall. It is gone. Casas does it again. It's gone. It's into the bullpen. This game is tied.
He swings and rips one to center field. It's high. It's deep. It's back. It's gone. Sale winds. He fires. Swing and a miss. Strike three. It's over. The Red Sox have won the World Championship.
Welcome back to Play Tessie. It is episode 91. If you're listening on drop day, it's July 6th. Episode 91 has a player. It's Alfredo Aceves, all of our favorite guys. Sammy and I heard some wild Alfredo Aceves stories that I don't think we should repeat when we were at spring trading. This is the official podcast of One Day Weeks. If you're listening on drop day, it's a Saturday, which means maybe you had work on Friday and you had a one day week. That's what I'm going to be doing. But this is also the official Red Sox podcast of WEI. Before we get going, remember, hit that subscribe button, whether you're listening on Apple, Spotify, or the Odyssey app. Hitting that subscribe button and rating us 5 stars helps us out a ton, and we really, really appreciate when you guys do that. You can also check us out on YouTube. We're on the WEI channel. You can find the Play Tessie playlist there. Hit the thumbs up on those videos. We really appreciate it. And you can find us on the socials, at Play Tessie on Twitter and Instagram. I'm here with Sammy and Pat. And guys, I mean, it is getting closer and closer to that trade deadline time. I am in the season where I've started listening to all of the insiders when they do their podcast, reading every article that drops, trying to just fill my head with every single thing that's going on. And I just want to get right into it. And in a piece that Ken Rosenthal wrote about specifically the Red Sox, which I love when he does this because he just absolutely rails ownership for not spending. And we can go on and on about where this team would be if ownership had invested properly in a team that deserved it. But regardless of that, the Red Sox are in a position where they should be buying. John Heyman said that he expects the Red Sox to be buyers. I don't think that's a surprise. I don't even know if that's just him reporting or him just kind of using logic based off of where the Red Sox are record-wise. But Ken Rosenthal floated an idea because one of the topics in the article was what do you do with Kenley Jansen? And we discussed it on one of the episodes last week. Can the Red Sox add to the roster without subtracting salary elsewhere? Because no one I think wants the Red Sox to straight up trade Kenley Jansen just to cash in on value or whatever. If you're trading Jansen, it's because of money. No one's there.
You'd be surprised. You should look at the tweet I had the other day where I said I want the Red Sox to keep Kenley Jansen, blah blah blah. These guys deserve to be invested in. The amount of people who responded with, well, I mean, the team isn't that hurt if they sell Jansen. You got to capitalize on his value. Unbelievably depressing amount of people. The Chaim Bloom regime, I liked a lot of what Chaim Bloom did, but that regime broke so many brains of people who the point of baseball is to win games, and people are just well, maybe next year would be even more likely to win games if you just kick the entire team in the crotch and tell them that they don't deserve to be invested. It's just, I won't get up on my soapbox, but yeah, no, you'd be surprised by the amount of people who do want the Red Sox to sell. And I think that's beyond pathetic.
That's crazy to me, especially when considering that it's not like Jansen is a guy like if you had Juan Soto and it's you can't get nothing for Juan Soto, but it's Kenley Jansen. He's making $16 million this year. If they do trade Jansen, to me, the only reason that the front office should even entertain that is if the front office is not going to let you add salary otherwise. And to that point, Ken Rosenthal in his article suggested, and Kenley Jansen of the Dodgers has been rumored since the offseason, and it hasn't happened to this point, but we know those discussions have happened. And one scenario that Rosenthal brought up is the Dodgers have some excess starting pitching they can get rid of. Walker Buehler is the name that he brought up. He makes about half of the money. He makes just over $8 million, which is right around half of what Jansen makes. But in 8 starts this year, he has a 5.84 ERA, and he's on the injured list right now. So has not performed really, and he's been hurt. But we've seen Walker Buehler at his best. I'll look back to his 2021 season where he had a 2.47 ERA in 33 starts, which led the league. He threw 207 2/3 innings. Buehler is an expiring deal. Red Sox definitely will, if they want to make it to the end of this year and give themselves a chance, they will need to add a starting pitcher. Pat, I'll kick to you first. is a Kenley Jansen for Walker Buehler trade the way they should add the starting pitcher?
No. And my reason being, Walker Buehler in the innings he has thrown this year has not been remotely effective. I think this is his third IL stint this year, I think. And I think if you're going to give up a piece like Kenley, you have to add someone who is 1,000% going to contribute to your push for that wild card spot. And Walker's an expiring contract. I don't get the 1-for-1. I don't. Kenley is exponentially more beneficial to your team than Walker Buehler would be for the next month and a half at the deadline.
Sammy, how do you feel about it?
This makes me so angry. You read an article, Ken Rosenthal writes an article saying that the Red Sox should invest, buy, they should be buyers. And then his suggestion is to trade your closer, who has been absolute nails, the back end of your bullpen, your anchor, who's been nails, for a pitcher who can barely stay on the mound. He's got a friggin' ERA close to 6, and he's on an expiring contract. That is your idea? You want them to shorten the bullpen and then get a guy who's completely broken. Pat just said he's on his third fucking IL stint. That's your idea? You want to kill the bullpen and then do pretty much nothing to the rotation for a guy you're not even going to have next year. I absolutely, unequivocally hate that trade idea. Who is that good for other than the Dodgers? It's not good for Buehler. You're putting him in a new environment, and then he's going to be in another new environment that you like probably right after. Kenley, I hate it. I absolutely hate it. I cannot believe that he would write that and then say, yeah, go get Walker Buehler. Walker Buehler in 2024? If you traded a prospect for him and then extended him, fine. That's great. Maybe he can bounce back. Maybe you cash in on that with the new pitching regime. But you're going to kick your closer out the door for a broken down, undersized starting pitcher who can't stay on the mound. And when he does stay on the mound, he's got a friggin' 6 ERA almost. Get the fuck out of here. Hate that. That is an awful, awful idea.
See, here's the thing. I think he's on the right track in his thinking, because to me, I know you said subtracting Kenley Jansen would kill the bullpen. I don't think it would kill the bullpen. The bullpen's got a good amount of depth. They've got guys in the minors that can pitch at the big league level, and they've got Liam Hendricks coming back. So, I mean, Cam Boozer
who is in the minors? You have Cam Boozer. Okay, who else? That he replaces, what's his name? Horn. Great.
Okay, Bailey Horn can be a big league pitcher. Isaiah Campbell can be a big league pitcher. God. I'm telling Sammy, I'm just saying, like, this is not, it's not like you don't have, like in previous years, the Red Sox had like 2 or 3 big league pitchers in their bullpen, and then like 5 minor league guys, and then in the minors it was just like a crapshoot. Now they've got like a good amount of guys.
But you just described the crapshoot, and you're going to shorten the bullpen, and then you're going to put a guy who you're either putting a guy with no closing experience, or you're putting Liam Hendricks, who's not going to be ready until August, who hasn't pitched in a year, and now you're saying you're the closer. We're in the middle of a pennant race. Good luck. I hate it. I
think you have 3 guys where if ownership is going to make you reduce salary to add salary, I think you have 3 guys who could step into the closer role and be fine. I would be confident with Chris Martin. I would be confident in Justin Slayton. Even though he has struggled as of late, I still feel pretty confident in him. It obviously would be a downgrade, but I think they need the upgrade in the starting rotation more. And obviously Liam Hendricks, he was signed to be that guy. I'm not saying that you put him right in there. He has to show that he's healthy and effective. But this is why you signed him, was to trade Jansen and put him in there. So eventually, let me ask you a question. Because let's say that your options, and obviously this is a kind of a dumb question because it's not a real scenario, but I'm going to ask it anyway. If your options are trade Kenley Jansen for Walker Buehler or do nothing.
Do nothing. Do nothing. You get worse. You lose your closer. You shorten the bullpen. You just named 2 guys with no closing experience. 1 guy who hasn't pitched in over a year. One of them is going to have to be your closer in a pennant race. And now your bullpen is shorter, and you don't add to the rotation at all. Probably if Buehler's back, who is even better than the guys you have now, he's completely broken. He's probably going to need an entire offseason to recoup. Like, I hate it, man. I absolutely hate it. And I think we're completely undervaluing. That didn't come out right. Undervaluing how important it is to have a closer. I don't think you can just put Justin Slayton in there. Look at him today on Thursday as we record. They put him into a tight game. He was a mess, absolute mess. Chris Martin has not been himself this year. He's been on the IL for anxiety. His performance on the field hasn't been what it was last year, and he's been an eighth inning guy for the vast majority of his career. He's been good, but he hasn't been a closer, man. That's eighth inning stuff. And then Hendricks, I mean, look, he's coming off of a big arm injury. He also just did friggin' chemo, which puts your body through the ringer. We got no clue what he's going to look like. You need certainty at the back of the bullpen. Kenley is that. Don't trade him.
Pat, would you do it if it's the only trade you had?
No, because I think if they trade for Walker Buehler, the team gets worse. Because Walker Buehler is maybe better than, say, a Winkowski or a Criswell right now. And then on top of getting that equal production, you're getting a roll of the dice every save situation. I would stand pat if that's the only thing that was on the table. Absolutely.
Can you imagine today, this game against the Marlins on July 4th? Imagine if they didn't have Kenley Jansen. Who pitches the ninth? And then it probably Zach Kelly. And then who pitches after that? You're going to Bailey Horn or friggin' Brad Keller in the extra innings. And you probably lose to Miami. That's brutal. I think the Red Sox bullpen is good, but it's not great. And people are way, way, way overrating the bullpen, and they're way too confident in how it's going to look if Kenley Jansen goes. I think that is crazy. It's going to be like night and day without him.
Here's the thing. I agree. If it were up to me, I'm not subtracting from the bullpen. But I just think that you have a better chance of making it through a full stretch run of a season with 5 starters and 3 reasonable chances that they can step into the closer role and have at least a little bit of success than you do keeping Jansen and trying to make it through with 4 starters. Because if you have 4 starters, you're trying to get through the season with Josh Winkowski and Cooper Criswell trying to be your 5th starter. That is not a way to keep arms fresh either in the rotation or the bullpen. Guys are going to fall apart. You need
Buehler's not that guy.
You need that starter. I agree. Buehler is probably not that guy this year. I do believe in him long term, but this year I agree that he's cooked. But if he's the only option we got, like they have to take shots at the rotation.
Why? Why? What does that do?
You have 4 starters.
He's not a starter right now. He's on the IL. He has a 6 ERA. Cooper Criswell's a more reliable candidate than him right now.
But it's Walker Buehler. Like, I know he has a 6 ERA to this point.
He hasn't been good for 2 years. It's been 2 years since he's been good.
2 years.
Exactly. That's my point.
But I'm just
we
saying,
haven't seen shit from him.
I know. It's not a reliable option, but I'm saying you need to take a shot at the rotation. If you want to
That's not a shot. That's a white flag to me. That's waving the white flag to me. I'd rather they get
he was really good.
Yeah, he was really good back when I was in friggin' college. I'm 80 years old now. I just don't I don't hate the concept. If you're trading Kenley and you make your bullpen much worse, but you get a decent starting pitcher, and now you have less innings from your vastly inferior bullpen. Okay, that makes sense. You still got no shot in October. You're going to get absolutely cooked. But, like, I don't know. I don't see how this team has any success in 2024 without adding a starting pitcher and not completely torching your bullpen. And I think if you lose Kenley, you're torching it way worse than people understand.
I don't think we'll have to agree to disagree here. I think they can take an arm out of that bullpen and still have success. It's not going to be the ultra strength that it is right now, but they would be able to have success if it's.
I agree, but not Kenley. And not Kenley though. I agree they could lose an arm, but not Kenley. That's your anchor.
Chris Martin.
If they lost Chris Martin, I think they would be okay. That's probably like the limit I'd go.
Too.
I would rather trade cash for present day Dallas Keuchel than I would Kenley for Walker Buehler.
Yeah, honestly, same. I hate the Kenley for Walker Buehler thing was like laughably bad. I couldn't believe it. That's just like giving away Kenley for nothing. Like Buehler might not pitch again this year. If he pitches 20 innings the rest of the season, would you guys be shocked? I wouldn't.
I don't know enough about his injury, to be honest with you.
Okay, let me throw out a different name. And this is a little more bold, and you definitely would have to do some dancing with the money. The Blue Jays they're pretty cooked. Blue Jays are pretty cooked. But they have a lot of pitching, and they could sell off on some of those pitchers. I think we just lost Pat. Goodbye, Pat. Pat has plans. Good for him. I don't.
Pat.
So we're going to talk Blue Jays, Red Sox trade ideas. Chris Bassett. Not an ace. Certainly not an ace, but a solid number 2, maybe number 3, probably more towards a 3 side starting pitcher. He's got a 3.24 ERA over almost 100 innings this year, 91 strikeouts. The whip is 1.366. Not the best, but he's very good. Here's the issue. He is due $22 million this year, okay? But more importantly, he's due $22 million next year. So if the Red Sox were to look to acquire someone like this, they have to find a way to, 1, get money off the books, and 2, make it so that it makes sense for Toronto. So you're not just going to throw in a guy like Yoshida in a trade and be like, hey, here's our trade. By the way, we're also giving you Yoshida. You got to pay for him. You kind of have to overpay and then add on Yoshida at the end, if that makes sense, Gordo.
The way I see it, just because I think if the Blue Jays are trading Bassett, I think a big part of that is going to be salary relief or building back prospect capital. So if you want them, I think they might be willing to eat down money if you wanted to pay more in terms of prospects. I don't think there's a scenario where they take Yoshida. I don't think there's a scenario where they take Jansen. That would make no sense to them. One thing you could do is give them a fair offer. And I honestly think the conversation is semi-similar to Zach Eflin, who we talked about last week. Bassett's due like, what, $4 million more next year than Eflin is, and is making a little bit more this year. So I guess the money's a little bit different, but they're both good pitchers. Both can eat innings, both veteran guys, both trustable guys. I think it's not like a 3-team trade scenario, but I think to get ownership to take on the money, I think you'd probably have to flip money elsewhere and maybe just commit to not bringing Pivetta back next year, which I think any controllable starter addition you make kind of does that. Because, like, think about it here. They've got Houck locked in. They've got Bayo locked in. They've got Cutter locked in. They've got Giolito, you would like to think, locked in. They've also got Whitlock coming back. So if you trade for a Chris Bassett or a Zach Eflin, now you're at 6 starters. Are you really going to offer Nick Pivetta a qualifying offer or try to extend him at that point? Probably not. But a guy like Bassett, a guy like Eflin, those guys are better than Nick Pivetta. Those are guys that I want at the top of the rotation with Tanner Houck, not just this year, but next year. I like the idea of Bassett. It's just a question of, do the Jays want to trade him? Do they want to subtract from their team next year? And if so, will they trade him to a division rival?
Could you make them want to trade him? Like, if you offer, and this is where it gets tough, because you might have to offer one of your better pitching prospects, because in theory, Yoshida probably goes to Toronto in this deal. They were interested in him before he signed.
I don't think
you got to find a
where they do it.
You got to find a way. You got to find a way to get Yoshida off the books. Then, if it's not Toronto,
you'd have to trade him elsewhere, or you'd have to trade one of the bullpen guys, because they can make it work next year. Because the bullpen guys are off the books next year. Sales off the books next year. Like, they've got money coming off. Like, you can make it work for Bassett's 22 next year. It's just a matter of taking on his what? He's making 22 this year too.
Yep.
So
22 and 22.
It's got to be like 9 or 10 million. He's going to be due. The rest, probably 9 million. Ownership's not going to let that fly. You're going to have to find, maybe they'll add some, but maybe not 9. It's crazy that we're having conversations like this.
Yeah. We gotta preface every single trade conversation we have with, we think this is so stupid. We think it's so dumb that they're not willing to eat $9 million to get a pitcher like Chris Bassett who could help them make the playoffs. But that's where John Henry's Red Sox are at. They don't want to spend, so we have to get creative and find ways for them to operate like the Tampa Bay Rays and try to sneak into the playoffs. So, yeah, I mean, is there anyone else that comes to mind other than Yoshida that you could dump for the salary? Because I'm kind of like, it's him or nobody else gets paid.
Well, I mean, you could trade extra prospect capital and get Toronto to eat money. I mean, it doesn't even have to be the entire contract. Like, if ownership's willing to take on up to $5 million in salaries and he's due 9, I mean, you're going to have to get a prospect that Toronto thinks is worth paying off $4 million in cash. But
what if it's like Christian Campbell and Wickelman and Lugo? Would you do that? So you have Campbell, who's your most helium. He's a middle infielder and an outfielder. He's been absolutely destroying the ball in AA. Then you have Wickelman, who was coming into the year was looked at as one of the top pitching prospects in the organization, has taken a step back, but the talent is still there conceivably. And then you have Matthew Lugo, who's having a career year, got promoted to AAA. However, he's very clearly blocked. You could switch him out with Nick York too, the Blue Jays would prefer him. Kind of a similar situation. Really good season in AAA and AA, but he is blocked. There's ways they can go about it. It's either going to be eating money, which is what a good owner would do, but we don't have that, or overpaying with prospects in order to get a different team with a real owner to take on salary.
Yeah, I think your proposal makes a lot of sense there. It's three guys who, well, one of them is a guy with pedigree who's having a down season, and two of them are guys who were not high in the rankings going into the season and have had big years. And one of them, Campbell, is jumped into like top 100 rankings now, and he's just an absolute monster. Eastern League Player of the Month this past month. He's just been a beast. I think to do that, he's playing short.
Yeah, he played short for 2 games.
That's wild. He's not a shortstop. That's crazy.
Value going up.
Yeah. Oh, that's a tough one. I think to me, they would, to be okay offloading that level of prospect capital. I don't think I want a guy making $22 million coming back. So I think I would want Toronto to eat some money coming off next year, because I want ownership to have, like, if I'm trading that level of prospect capital, I want to not only get a guy and also have the ability to have room under whatever the hell ownership's budget is to add more for next year. So I think if the money's right, if Toronto's willing to play ball there, I would do it. What about you?
Just kills the fun of baseball. It kills the fun of talking about trades, knowing that we have to also keep in mind the money of our, what is he, $5.1 billion value owner. We got to pinch pennies for him.
This is the way all other fans have it, man. Like, it's crazy. We've never done it like this. But how many fan bases have it the way we had it? The Mets, the Dodgers, the Yankees. Is that it?
Mets, Dodgers, Yankees, Rangers, Phillies.
Phillies, God, yeah. And Rangers have been, yeah. I mean,
Padres,
Padres.
Astros are in between.
They've kind of cheaped out at times. It kind of depends.
Cubs are on and off. Cubs will go up and down.
Other teams do that, though. Other teams go up and down. And to be honest with you, I don't know if John Henry is going to be willing to go up and down, because you would have thought that this past offseason would have been a time to go up. That's what I thought he'd turn into.
Everyone thought that. And everyone was right. Look at the team right now. They're, 8 games over 500 despite being neglected by the owner. And again, I mentioned this in our previous episode 90. I said they're winning in spite of John Henry, not because of John Henry. This guy deserves absolutely no credit. The opposite, in fact. All the shortcomings I would put mostly on him for not investing in the team. But man, I don't know. I genuinely don't know what I would do. I want to just say, just pay the money. Of course, you're the Boston Red Sox.
That's our instinct.
You have a chance. You have the chance to make the playoffs in Boston. There's no more diehard sports town. Boston and Philly. Maybe toss New York in there, but I wouldn't. Like, what are you doing, man? It's so frustrating. And you have to, every trade talk we have, you have an asterisk next to it, because you don't know if the owner is going to, you don't even know if the owner knows the players on the team at this point. Do you think John Henry can name 20 guys on the roster right now? Because I genuinely don't.
20, that I don't know about 20. I think he could get
less than the total.
He could get to 15, I think. I don't know.
And and the Celtics are up for sale. We learned this week, and you saw the reaction. Every single person in the New England area, their first reaction was, please not John Henry. So this is the kind of weirdo we're dealing with. Doesn't want to spend on the team despite the team doing well and everyone, he's
but that's what's crazy. Goodwill. You said it right there. That's what's crazy about it. It's because, like, I don't want to say most, but a lot of other teams, it's like their owners will invest in the team when it's time to start winning. They won't invest in the team to, like, prevent last place finishes, but when the team has a chance to, like, step into the playoffs and go for a championship, that's when they invest. And that's like, John Henry used to be an owner that would spend all the time or at least do his part to try to prevent last place finishes, but that was out the window. I'd sort of figured he was turning into the owner that's only going to invest when his team is ready to compete. The team is clearly ready to compete this year. You're seeing it on the field. We knew it before the season. He didn't invest. So we don't know what he is. We don't know if he's ever going to invest. That's why we have to preface all of our trade talks with it. I like Bassett. You like Bassett. Will the Red Sox be able to get a pitcher like Bassett making $22 million, or is it too complicated? It remains to be seen. But Sammy, before we get out of here, enough said. Do we have any enough saids from you today?
No enough saids. I've just kind of, this game today, this Red Sox game, took so much out. Actually, I do have one note I want to add. It's kind of some grave dancing. I guess this is enough said. So Michael Kay, the Yankees announcer, he had a quote about Aaron Judge, plays for the New York Yankees, who just got swept by the Reds. He said, Aaron Judge hits, the Yankees win. That simple. And then there was a response because Yes Network tweeted the quote out, and they tweeted stats of Aaron Judge. What is this? It's Aaron Judge in wins versus Aaron Judge in losses. And surprise, surprise, he hits better when the Yankees win, not as well when they lose. Aaron Judge's hitting coach responded to this, and he says, quote, they, the Yankees, have lost 13 out of 18 while Aaron Judge is hitting like an MVP. The Yankees' offensive player development is terrible. And that was Richard Schenk, his private hitting coach. So Red Sox are playing the Yankees next. If you listen to our previous episode, we previewed that series against the Yankees and Alex Verdugo, who's a terrible Major League Baseball player. And I mean, they're down bad right now. The Judge is great, Soto's great, but the rest of the team is just not performing, and the people are getting upset, and they got the friggin' deadline coming up. Who knows what they're going to do? Garrett Cole looks terrible. Luis Gil is regressing. Rodon still stinks. So we'll see what happens. I just thought that was interesting that the walls are kind of coming down. Yeah, weird. And what is the point of that if you're his
needless? Yeah, needless. Yeah. It was weird, but like,
yeah, I mean,
yeah. And to be honest with you, I feel like you don't get to that point without a lot of frustration building up. Like there are definitely specific things that he doesn't like about whatever the hell they are preaching in that organization. So regardless of what happens in the next couple weeks or whatever, I think the Yankees will be buying, but let's see what they do down the stretch. Like whatever their record is this month, it's about how you finish. They'll probably make the playoffs. We'll see what they do when they're there. My enough said has nothing to do with baseball. It's more of a question for you. You said this term on the last episode, and I made a face, because I'd already prepared. I'd heard this term. I've been hearing this term for years, but I heard it recently. I was like, I keep hearing this, and it's one of those things where I hear it all the time and just kind of nod along, but I've never known what it meant. What the hell does dating? I'm dating myself. What does that mean?
It means you're applying a date to what you're saying. You're making it seem that you are talking about something that's outdated. Like it's being oh, this is so dated. Like you see someone, I don't know, what's something that's outdated? Like someone has a really outdated political opinion. You're like, oh, that's such a dated thing to say. And then if you are about to say something that people will have a similar reaction to, you say, I'm kind of dating myself now. Like if I said to you, Gordo, I'm kind of dating myself right now, but I think batting average is the most important hitting statistic in baseball. You'd be
so hold on.
You sound like you're talking from 2002.
So it has to do with it. Like what I'm saying is dated. See, I'd always heard it and thought oh, I'm dating myself. I'm going on a date with myself. That's what I was like, yeah.
No. It's date. The verb is to date. And when you, in this context, it means you're applying a date to whoever you're talking about. So if you're
getting burned for your old school takes,
right?
Yeah,
right.
It's not, and
you're going to get burned.
Gordo, if I said to you, now I'm dating myself, but when I was watching baseball, Wade Boggs was the best hitter in the league, and you go, you think Wade, you're so old, you watched Wade Boggs play, and okay, that's not that old, but to the point,
I get it.
I would, make sense.
This is good. It makes sense. And I forget whatever the hell I'd asked one of these before. And you guys tried to explain it to me, but I think even you guys didn't quite know. And none of us, or maybe you did and just didn't do a good enough job explaining it. I don't think anyone knew. And I didn't come out of that conversation having, I don't know, dude.
What was it again? It was oh man, this is bad. It's bad radio to just sit here and ponder, but I know.
Think about it. I'll text you if I can remember it at some point. But yeah, I actually feel good about this one. I will remember this. This is good progress. I'm getting smarter.
When you have children someday, and you go, hey kids, I'm dating myself, but Paul Pierce was the greatest player when I was a kid. And they'll go, shut up, Dad. Paul Pierce, he hasn't been good for 40 years. And you'll go, I'm
dating myself.
Yeah, I just dated myself with that one.
You'll say, I'm dating myself when I didn't find out what dating myself meant.
That's
kind of.
Yeah. No, in the future, the year 2024, when we talk about the big bad 2024 Red Sox, we will be dating ourselves. And like
that definitely didn't work. The Joe's that didn't
No, it'll be like, oh, I'm dating myself. But remember David Hamilton from the 2024 Red Sox? Like, yeah, we'll be dating ourselves.
Wait, no, it wasn't Not for Nothing, was it? No, you say that.
No, yeah, never mind. No, that was you. You questioned Not for Nothing. And I explained that one to you.
Yeah, now I gotta know what your phrase was. I'm trying to think, but I'll ponder it and get back to you.
We'll get there. But till next time, appreciate you guys tuning in for episode 91 of Play Tessie. Before you click on whatever the hell else you're going to click on next, remember, hit that subscribe button, whether you're on Apple, Spotify, or the Odyssey app. Helps us out a ton when you subscribe and rate us 5 stars. Please click the button, rate us 5 stars. It takes you nothing. Helps us out a ton. Also on YouTube, Play Tessie videos are on the WEI channel. We've got our own playlist. Hit the thumbs up there. That also helps us out a ton. And you should definitely by now be subscribed or be following us on the socials at Play Tessie on both Twitter and Instagram. Tons of good content coming out on those all the time. So be sure to follow us there. But for Sammy, for Pat, for Joe doing the producing for us, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you guys. Go Sox. Let's keep it going. Thanks for tuning in. Episode 91 of Play Tessie. Peace.